What is that one niche fact that you just simply know? President Benjamin Harrison was the grandson of President William Henry Harrison. John Scott Harrison is the only man in U.S. history to be both father and son of U.S. presidents. John's only other memorable contribution to U.S. history happened after he died. His body was stolen from the grave and discovered by his son, not the president, but his brother, hanging in a medical school classroom. This led to the U.S. passing laws allowing for medical schools to accept unclaimed bodies for studies instead of relying on grave robbers. Humans are exceptionally good at smelling rain and water. It's called petrichor and is released when rain falls on soil. We're actually better at smelling that than a shark is to blood in the water. Usually it's proposed that humans don't have as strong of smells as other animals, but it's not necessarily true. From an evolutionary perspective, finding water is extremely important to humans, so being able to find it is important. Camels use the same sense of smell to find an oasis in the desert. Only recently learned this. An item from Earthbound, the Soundstone. Official art makes it look more like a prismatic implied child of something, clearly not a natural rock formation, with an XX mark on it. Means absolutely nothing contextually, but oddly interesting given XX stones were a loose narrative point from the previous game. In 1943 there was a copper shortage because of the war and all US pennies were made out of steel. The ones that were made out of copper that year are worth a ton of money nowadays. Also any dime quarter or $50 before 1964 is worth $5 because they all contain around 40 sliver. One might be too limited for me. Horses can sleep standing up. I can perfectly pronounce P. Newman ultramocolixic. Electric eels were referred to by Egyptians as thunders of the Nile before the term electricity was established. In Chile, water is private. While card companies know about your transactions, it's unlikely they'll ever know the specific things you bought. That's because passing the information on items purchased is a liability, because sending that information to another company may be a HIPAA violation. There was a landmark in Niger called the Tree of Terrine. It was the only living tree in the Terrine Desert within a radius of approx 400 kilometers for 1,400 football fields for Americans. In the 1970s, drunk driver hit it and destroyed the tree. Children of the condemned to die in China are not eligible for adoption nor provided succor by the government. If their parents are sentenced to death, then they're just abandoned to relatives or magnanimity of strangers. A sit ski is a device that enables people who use wheelchairs to go skiing. You can buy a Barbie doll with a sit ski. Her sit ski is based on a real one from a brand called KBG. The KB in KBG stands for Kevin Bramble. Slayer album God Hates Us All was released the morning of 9/11/2001. Us most Slayer fans, where were you on 9/11/01? Standing in line at CD store trying to get a copy of God Hates Us All as the towers crumbled. There's tangential evidence that during Julius Caesar's reign, a lost Roman legion ended up in the service of a Chinese emperor. There's a little village in China who claim to be the descendants of those Romans. The largest eggs in the world is laid by the whale shark. The largest woman in the world is laid by your father. Before the invention of the steam locomotive, early settlers would run a wagon on your mom. I somewhat know how to theoretically make the pumps that deliver water to the reactor in How TF2. I hyperlink. I can't do anything else but that. Ray. Aldiona kidnapping factoid. When trader Joe visited Aldiona in Germany, he turned round in his car when leaving and saw electric metal gates closing all window doors to the mansion. ANK1 Akodaphobia has a compartment under the steering wheel that just fits a 330 milliliters soda can, and with AC, that compartment can be cooled, and due to how it's designed, it can be heated as well. If you work in a wastewater treatment plant, your white blood cell count will be higher than normal, and you won't get sick very easily. Your doctor will think you are until you explain it. The first written record of the abbreviation "Oh my God" meaning "Oh my God" is in the correspondence of Adam Jackie Fisher, First Sea Lord of the British Admiralty in the early 20th century. After a male be mates with a queen, he is disemboweled and dies. Option B for him is to be kicked out of the hive by his sisters still a virgin in fall to freeze, or starve to death. The brain of the giant squid is a torus shape, with its esophagus passing through it. If the squid eats anything too big, it risks massive brain damage, evolution at its finest. Card networks like Visa have no idea which cards have been issued to use their network. The companies that actually know issue for the network and are called issuer processors. Lots of deep-sea fish have a bone in their ear which you can determine their age, similar to how you can count the rings on trees by cutting them and counting layers rings. Cats can survive a fall from the top of a skyscraper. The shape of their bodies and the way they flail lowers their terminal velocity to potentially non-fatal speeds. If a baby is breastfed, male or female, the hormones in the mother's milk also causes the baby to lactate. So you can technically milk a baby boy if you so choose. General Sickles had his leg blown off during the American Civil War and donated it to a medical museum, I think in Philadelphia. It is still on display. What fact do you know? And variants are the most commonly posted question on this subreddit, posted about 25 times in the past 24 hours alone. Air cools at an average rate of 1.5 degrees C for every 1,000 feet. Now guess what continent I'm from based on the units of measurement I use. I feel like I know some niche facts, but I just can't think of any right now. Always the same problem for me with these type of posts lore. The first parody film was The Little Train Robbery 1905, which was a remake of The Great Train Robbery 1903 with an all-child cast. Humans and giraffes have the same amount of cervical vertebrae neck bones. They don't have more. Theirs are just longer. In the 90s Spider-Man cartoon, he actually does punch. Spidey punches a wall, and he punches the villain Scorpion twice. If you add all the pieces of the Great Wall of China together, they could stretch almost twice around the moon. Adhesives and paint thinners typically aren't very good unless they state that they cause cancer on the front. 15 miles from a coastline is under that country's jurisdiction. Anything past that is international waters. Tiramisu literally means pick-me-up, suitable for a quick hit of sugar and booze at the end of a meal. An 8-letter word with just one vowel. But then again, lexicology always was a strength of mine. Moths are not attracted to light. They're actually attracted to the darkness behind a source of light. The largest French-speaking city is not Paris or Montreal. It's Kinshasa, the capital of the DRC. We are closer to the year the Jetsons took place 2060 than the year the Jetsons premiered 1962. Pablo Picasso was old and young enough to have lived in the same time as Charles Darwin and Eminem. The chest-burster scene from Alien was inspired by the writer's experience with Crohn's disease. Nicotine helps to soothe the schizophrenic brain, so it's the one redeeming quality of tobacco. Two people have been killed by being ran over by the people mover at both Disney parks. Buttons became very popular in European fashion around the middle of the 14th century. It's same distance from Ireland to Uzbekistan as from West Indonesia to East Indonesia. I was quite delighted to learn that a group of snails is called an escargotoire. Pancreatic beta cells produce insulin. Don't ask me how, I literally don't know. That cows have best friends. That emus and kangaroos can't walk backwards. John Tyler, 10th US president and born in 1790, has a living grandchild. That if it hadn't been for Cotton Eye Joe, I'd been married a long time ago. There wasn't a Christmas tree in the White House until the 14th president. I think therefore I am. It's as the only thing we can just simply know. The oldest written source that mention the sandwich is from the Talmud. Your bum has taste buds, which is why spicy food stings when you poop. The presence of toads is a great indicator of a healthy ecosystem. You are more likely to be killed by a vending machine than a shark. The Back to the Future DeLorean was originally a Volkswagen Beetle. Yogurt was invented in Mongolia, and Rod Stewart was a gravidigger. Wombats poop in cubes. I don't know why I need this knowledge. Eminem allegedly slept with a child as per his ex-bodyguard. Waylon Jennings smokes 6-7 packs of cigarettes every day. The middle of a starfish is the butthole. You're welcome. Sharks have been around longer than the rings of Saturn. Macaulay Culkin is a classically trained ballet dancer.